My dear friends, Christ is risen. Truly, he is risen. You know, I just finished the Easter Vigil Mass, and one of the things that I miss is that because there's no parishioners in the pews, we didn't do the very beginning, the ritual of the actual rite of blessing the flame, the fire. We didn't really go outside, and the church wasn't in complete darkness. And one of the images that I truly enjoy seeing all the time is when the church is filled with darkness and everyone's inside with their unlit taper. And what happens is, as I bless the fire, I light the Easter candle, the Paschal candle, and I enter into the church. And the moment I enter into the church, that one single Paschal candle light breaks the darkness. And then I raise the Easter candle and I sing, "The light of Christ." And you respond, "Thanks be to God." And then as I bring it back down, I walk to the center of the church, and for the second time, I raise up the Easter candle, the Paschal candle, and I sing again, "The light of Christ." And the response is, "Thanks be to God." And then as I lower it, the altar servers come and they actually take their unlit tapers and they light it from the Easter candle, and then they go around the whole church lighting everyone's tapered candle. And obviously the tapered candle represents your own baptismal candle that you got when you were baptized. Your godparents and parents were given the exact light from the Easter candle, and it was entrusted to you to be kept burning brightly. And at this point, when everyone's candle is lit, the lights are still off, but the church is no longer in darkness, but filled with light. And it's so amazing how each and every one of us, our individual lights, our individual taper, one light lit, lights up the entire church. You know, this image of darkness being conquered by light is an ancient image. But you know, for us, we live in this world today. We've been in darkness, not just for Lent, but we've been living in darkness for the last few months, especially with this COVID-19 pandemic going on. Some of us may be losing jobs. Some of us may be wondering what's going to go on financially. How are we going to be able to eat? What are we going to be able to do? Some of us, even myself, at one point a few weeks ago, I've been stuck inside the rectory for so long, my allergies were acting up. And then I couldn't breathe. And I'm like, oh man, I can't breathe. And we want to go outside and we want to visit our friends and I want to visit my parents, and yet we can't. And it can seem like very dark. And yet, today, Easter is the resurrection of our Lord. But it also symbolized very well at the very beginning when the light of Christ enters into the darkness of the church and breaks that darkness. It is Christ who expels the darkness from our lives. It is Christ who brightens and lightens our whole entire day. Today's message in the gospel, at the very end, when Jesus rose from the dead, the women came to the tomb and it was empty. And then the angel told the women, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, to go to the disciples and tell them that the Lord has risen. And as they were going along, they met with Jesus. Jesus met with them and said, "Do not be afraid." That is the message of Easter. That our Lord conquered death, the darkness of death. And in the time that we have on this earth, there'll be ups and downs. There may be darkness in our lives. Despite even the pandemic going on, there could be darkness in our lives. And yet, Christ dying isn't the end of the story. His resurrection is the conquering of death. "O death, where is your sting?" the conquering of death and darkness, the dispelling of all darkness. This is our Easter message. We are people of the resurrection. We are people who know that Christ has conquered everything. And with that, we go with great hope, great joy, even in the midst of this world that can be dark. For us as Christians, we can be that light for the world. You and I, which symbolized in the church at the very beginning, when the church is in complete darkness, when each and every one of the baptized light is lit, when the tapered candle is lit, it expels all the darkness. For each and every one of us, we may be at home, we may be isolated, but know that we carry the light of Christ in us. And during this Easter season, we are meant to be light to the world. Our parish, our St. Monica's parish mission statement is to joyfully bring Christ to the world and intentionally bring the world to Christ. And because now that the churches are closed, we can't bring them to Christ, we need to, more than ever, to reach out and to bring the light of Christ to the world. To call your neighbor. Don't go next door and into them and break that physical distancing. But call your neighbor. Ask them how they're doing. Brighten their day. Bring the love of Christ, the light of Christ into the world. And as you do this during this Easter season, remember, I pray for each and every one of you. And just a little update for the Ask Father D's Corner. We have a few questions that have come up, so it looks like I will be answering them and putting them on video Wednesdays and Fridays. If it stops, then I guess we'll fill it in with other material. God bless. May the Lord bless you always on this Easter celebration that Christ is risen. Truly, He is risen.